Pasick. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that is taking the baseball days.
Yeah, dude, that probably seems like an eternity ago for you.
Seriously, for real.
So, wait, last time basically that I've seen you was like you were just graduating high school.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember I did like a live Instagram about 10-minute walks, and you were in there. That was like the last time we talked.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I was wondering if you still do those.
Oh hell yeah! Oh yeah, I do like 10 a day.
I know I take my dog on a walk probably 2 or 3 times a day, so I get in a little bit more than 10 minutes, but
Nice, nice.
dude, like that's my way to kind of meditate and reset before I get on another call with
Oh,
somebody.
absolutely.
Just don't even bring my phone. I just leave it at
Yeah,
my house
yeah.
or leave it wherever I'm at and then go for a little walk and it's just nice to get away.
That's like honestly, that's where I find I'll be on my phone and I'll think I'm like fully in thought and thinking of good ideas, but when I leave it there and go on my walk, it's like new stuff just hits me and it's like holy crap! Like the best ideas I come up with are on my walks.
Do you take a journal with you or anything?
No, I just like when I get home, I'll write down anything that I thought of, but I try to just be with myself when I walk.
Hmm. Yeah, there's I mean it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think going down to Peru really took that to another level?
Oh my gosh, dude. So it's
Have
funny
you
because
have you like talked to anybody about Peru on like
not
a
really,
on
not
like
in
in
depth.
like a yeah.
I mean, yeah, honestly, a little bit, but it's funny because like when you did the 100 miles, like it made me think of how I've lived my life, and like unknowingly I've always put myself in situations that were out of my comfort zone. Like I didn't even like Peru came up and I was looking online and I was like, oh hell yeah, like that'll be easy for me. But then I get there and it's like the hardest thing because it's totally out of my comfort zone. And I feel like the average person doesn't go into something because they know it's out of their comfort zone. But for me, I would just say yes to everything. And then I'd get there, I'd be like, this is totally out of my comfort zone. Like I hate this. So
What did you hate? What was like so hard about it?
I've never been away from my family, like ever. So like going away to a completely different country and not being able to talk to them, like majority of the time. And like, I don't know, just waking up and having my meal set and like going to the gym and like that routine that I was so accustomed to. And then to completely go there and like everything's changed. Like to wake up and meditate for an hour before like eating anything and like then yoga practice without talking. And then you can't talk to people for like another hour. And then breakfast time, you can finally talk to people, but it's just like you're just with yourself. And I didn't realize like I don't know. There was just a lot going on up in my house, and I didn't realize that that was happening. And I just had to figure a lot of things out, and I wasn't happy like with my life here, and it just like completely flipped everything. I was like, "Holy crap!"
All right, so you were
Yeah,
down there for how many months? 3?
just a month, a
Oh,
little,
just one. Oh, so like
little
3 or
over a
4
month.
weeks.
Yeah, a little over a month.
Uh, and what was your normal day like?
So in
Wait, what was
Chicago,
the
I'd wake
purpose of you? Hold on, before we go, I have so many questions rolling through my head. But what was the
up.
purpose of you going down there in the first place?
So I'm in the process of opening up my own yoga studio. Um, we just we're working on a space.
Remember when I fucking told you to do that
I'm,
4 years ago?
it's happening, brother. I know. Yeah, so I mean, there's two guys that take my class, and like my classes are just filling up, and they're like, look, like we gotta stop. Like we need to do this now. So we finding a place was the hardest part. But so I knew I had a lot of time because we were trying to find a space. So I just wanted to expand my knowledge. So I went to Peru to get 200 hours certified in yoga. So just like the next level of knowledge in yoga, just because if I'm going to be a CEO of a yoga studio, I figured I should know as much as I should, you know? So that's what I but I didn't realize that it'd be 90% an internal awakening and like the other 10% would be actually learning yoga.
Hmm. So what was your normal day like?
um, Before I left for Peru, it'd be, you know, waking up at like 5 a.m., eating a, like a half a pound of steak and white rice, and then heading to the gym, get back, teach my class or whatever. And I don't know, I just like I would teach, I would take yoga classes, and I just had like this whole routine. And I mean, it was making me like stronger and healthier for sure, but it was so comfortable to me. So to come, like, to get out of my comfort zone and do something um, that was completely different for me definitely helped. And it made me realize that within my routine in Chicago, it's good to have a routine. I think people should have a routine just to, like, your body needs consistency in order to change and stuff like that, and like discipline. But um, just going to Peru made me realize that I need to set challenges for myself every day, even if it's something so little like taking a cold shower for 60 seconds every day, which I do now because of Peru. And like just the littlest type of goals, because little changes lead to greater changes, and greater changes lead to greater success. So
Yeah, I completely agree. Like we definitely do need routines, but you also need to plan in to your life spaces where you can completely go in and blow that routine right out of the water.
totally.
So
Well,
that you
yeah.
can come back with kind of a clear mind and look at your routine and be like, okay, was this serving me or was this not serving me?
Exactly. And I mean, people don't find their true passion in comfortable places. Like, in order to find what you truly love to do, you need to become uncomfortable, because you need to unlock that level of your brain and that level of your true potential. And you're not going to be able to do that in a comfortable state.
Yeah, and in a comfortable state, you don't know, or you know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
in an
exactly.
uncomfortable state, you get your mind opened up to things that you didn't know you didn't know. Like when,
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
I went out to live with this professional basketball coach out in Iceland for 2 weeks, and I thought my nutrition was pretty dialed in, honestly. And I go out there, and he took my knowledge around nutrition and diet to a whole nother level. Like we didn't eat any sugar for 2 weeks. We didn't drink. We
Yeah.
didn't eat any bread or flour. And I dropped like 7 pounds, which I didn't think I had 7 pounds to lose, and I lost 7 pounds in the first week. You know, it was all
Yeah.
just like bloat. And what's amazing is I felt great. Like I was running, I went for an 18-mile run one day, and I got home and I chilled out for 2 hours. He gets home from work and he goes, "Hey man, I'm about to go for a run. You want to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I feel great." And we went for another 3, and then the next morning I woke up and I did 8 more, and we went and worked out. Like, and it was all because I had my diet and nutrition like completely changed. But if I would have never went to Iceland and I would have never been open to even trying his way, then I would have never known.
Isn't that so cool, dude? Like, did you feel like within you, your intuition just be like, yes, this is what you need to do?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
go to Iceland. Because like I was looking at so many yoga trainings, and there was so many like intensive programs, and for some reason I just felt pulled to this Peru one, and without question I was just like, yes. I think it's just so cool. Like, people need to listen to their intuition and just listen to like where their heart is pulling them.
But why do you think they don't?
Because they're scared, I think. I mean, like,
That's exactly the reason I was thinking.
they're scared, and I get it. It's scary, but like, I mean, I could say it 1,000 more times. Like, you're never gonna know how great you actually are until you step on the other side of fear. I mean, it's just, that's it.
My buddy, the guy in Iceland is now one of my like best friends,
Yeah,
and we always talk about like that fear you feel, or like when you're scared, that's a fear door that you have to walk through.
you
Like
have
just
to.
just
You
open up the
have to.
door and walk right through it. And he had a couple of different fear doors that he was really hesitant to walk through in his life. And now that he had 2 big ones. And now that he walked through both of them, he's like, this is the best my life has ever been. And like I
Wow.
cannot wait. Like I'm looking so much forward to the future. I'm looking so much forward to the future that like, and I'm just living in the present moment, loving it. And it was because of those 2 fear doors that he walked through. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. And I think another thing, people are scared, but they also, again, I see it at the gym too, like people who have been with personal trainers for like years and they have no change whatsoever. It's because before they enter, like, for those people, they want to make a change so bad that it's so scary to them because they already in their brain they think, all right, well, I'm never going to reach like what some of these people have reached. So before even walking into the doors, they've given up on themselves, so they're never going to reach that. And I feel like there's so many people who talk about how they walk through their fear doors, but if you walk into it with the wrong mentality and you fail, then you're just going to think you're never good enough. Like you have to, people need that confidence and that strength to just believe that they can do it, because when you have that mentality and then you do fail, it's like, all right, well, I still like, you still have that belief in yourself, so you're going to find another door to accomplish that. And
Yeah, like you don't see
door.
fear, like you don't see fear as fear, or you don't see failure as failure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you have the right mentality, because people will go in and it's like, if you think you're not good enough and then you don't do it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's what I expected because I thought to myself, I'm not good enough. But if you think like, no, I am good enough, I can do great. When you fail, it's like, all right, there's another door. I know there is, like, and there's always another door to accomplish something. It just wasn't the right path that I needed to take.
Mm-hmm. How do you build that? How do you build that belief or build that mentality?
For me, how I've done it is through consistency and like before I go to bed, like setting a plan, like this is when I'm waking up, this is when I'm doing this, like no cheat meals, like following the program that I set for myself, because I think what, and I know for a fact, when you set little goals for yourself and you consistently accomplish them for months and then years, like that becomes an addiction. So then your brain automatically is forced to think, okay, you can do this. What more can we do now? So I think that is for me, that's just my experience right now. And I'm still like, I'm reading books on, I'm obsessed with like Tony Robbins and James Lawrence. I don't know if you know him, Iron Cowboy. I'm just obsessed with people who have like mental strength. And from what I'm picking up from all those books that I've read is like, just start with little goals and your brain will start to reshape and just become obsessed with accomplishing those, that it will just be forced to want to do more. And that's when you just gain so much confidence because you keep accomplishing these little goals that you're setting for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's so key is what you just said is like have a plan and stick to it.
Yeah.
But most people miss the first part. They don't have a plan. They don't know
That's
what
true.
they want in life. And like that's the big thing that I got out of my 100 miler is like know what you want and then go do what has to be done to get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like but it starts with knowing what you want. Like I knew I wanted to finish that 100 miler, partly because I don't ever want to do another one.
Yeah.
But like when I had 40 miles to go, I was like thinking in my head, and I think I said it out loud. I was like, how am I going to run another 40 miles? I'm like, I'm exhausted mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
But I knew that like I have been thinking about completing this 100 miler since I signed up last September. And I signed up like September 16th, 2018. And now it's June 6th, 2019. I ran it 5 days ago, right? So like, I'd been thinking about it forever. But at the same time, like at the end of the day, I think if I would have quit, I would have been completely okay with that decision as well, because it would have been my decision. I would have decided that, okay, like I want to quit, and I would have hung it up, and like that would have been okay for me at the end of the day. Now, would I have been upset with myself the next day or like a week later or a month later? Hell yeah. And I'd probably have to go out and run another one because that's just who I am. But
Totally.
like coaches ask me all the time, they say, how come like today's kids like are afraid to hold each other accountable or are afraid to hold themselves accountable? I'm like, well, it's because I think people get chastised all the time for making a decision that goes against like society or goes against like what's good or bad, like, or like people tag decisions as bad decisions, or instead of just being like, okay, like it is what it is, and moving forward with it. So that's what I say to them. I'm like, yo, if they're making a decision, like hold them accountable to that decision, but make them aware of the fact that like that decision did or did not help the team,
Mm.
you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so many people nowadays are like indecisive. How many friends do you have that are just like super indecisive? And
Too
is
many.
indecisiveness to me is the fact that they're afraid to be held accountable for their
Mm.
actions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I choose, it's even the simplest things like choosing where to go for dinner. You know, they're afraid to make a decision on dinner because they don't want people to think that like they chose a bad restaurant if somebody didn't
Totally.
like it, you know?
Yeah. They
And
want other people to agree with them.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, dude, like if you make a decision and you truly believe in it, then like if somebody makes fun of you or says you're a bad person for that decision, like screw them because
Totally.
like you made that decision on your best interest and your like deep inner beliefs. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a noble cause at the end of the day.
And I just think about our schooling system, and like I don't even know if would put my kids through school, just because like even the simple fact of having a grading scale, like A, B, C, D's, and all this stuff. Like in life, you either pass or you fail. So like that, and the fact like, oh, you got a C, you still pass. Like it, those little things trigger our brain, and like I, I just think teachers are so like they're just not passionate, and they're with the kids 95% of the day. And then the parent, like they'll get home and then it's like nighttime and the parents talk to them for a little bit and then they go to bed. So like the teachers are setting them up for what they want to do like in their life. And I just think that it's just society and the way that schools are and how teachers are not passionate. It's just like conditioning our brains to live a certain lifestyle, and that's how we need to, and they're not being taught like to be themselves and to speak up on how they feel and stuff. I don't know.
What what makes you think that?
I don't know, man. It just um
You like was that are you speaking from like personal experience or is this from like talking with a bunch of other people?
well, I just like people that I've talked to and been around, like so many people act the same way and they do the same things and they think that that's the life that makes them happy. And from what I've learned and like talked to people, they're not really happy. They say they're happy because they think that that's happiness because they've been taught that that's happiness their whole life. So I just think that, well, I just know that being around like so many people when I teach my yoga classes and stuff, like everyone's brain is conditioned by the society that we're in, and they never take those steps backward to fully look inside themselves and what they truly want, and they never take the actions forward to unlock levels in their brain to reach their potential.
How do you like break through those barriers?
Hmm.
Like if somebody is so stuck in their ways and they're conditioned, they're like your typical, you know, like all they want is to have a 9 to 5, have a wife and kids, live in the suburbs, and grow old and just stick in their routine. How do you get somebody like that out of that mindset and into?
I think it starts with I would ask them what questions do they ask themselves, and because every day, like when you wake up, how many questions do you think like we ask ourselves unknowingly? And it's countless. Like it's like, should we do this? And like even when you asked me to do this podcast, like in my brain, just from like past experience from when I was afraid to like step out of my comfort zone, like my brain asked the question like, no, you probably like, do you actually want to do this? Should you do this? And it's like me now, I was like, fuck yeah, like I'm doing this. But in the back, like I realized and like I was asking that question, but I didn't like unknowingly, it just becomes a part of you, like all these questions that we've asked ourselves since we woken up. So I think I would sit down with them and just like break down the questions that they ask themselves and be like, what are you grateful for? Like in this very moment, like what what is your passion? Like, what drives you to live this lifestyle? And does it make you happy and stuff like that? And like, because I mean, someone's passion could be being a good father and like going home and playing with his kid and just giving all of his attention, and like that could be his passion. But I think it just comes down to like sitting them down and talking to them about like what questions they ask themselves on a daily basis. If it's just like, oh, I wonder how much traffic there's going to be getting into work. I wonder how much work I'm going to be given. Because if that is a question they ask themselves, then they're not happy and they're just constantly worrying about the future, and that's not how you're supposed to live. So I think it just comes down to asking yourself the right questions, because if you start with a good question, your brain will find a good answer. And if you start with a bad question, your brain will find bad things to answer that question. You're going to come up with a bad answer. So I think once people condition themselves to ask themselves better questions, it'll get their brain thinking and find things and put them together to get them on a path that leads to what they truly love to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's valuable insight for sure, because we need to ask ourselves like if somebody's asking themselves, is this really all that life is? You know, like if they're asking themselves a question like that, then yeah, they probably aren't happy and they probably need to look into something else. But then again, that's stepping through those fear doors and being okay with getting uncomfortable.
Totally.
So but I think
that because you can't just ask yourself better questions and then not take action, right? Like you can ask yourself better questions. Like I've realized when the times that I've felt really low, I'll just ask myself the question. It's like, what can I be grateful for in this very moment? And instantly my state changes, because your brain finds a way to be happy. But you need to ask yourself better questions as the first step. But then like once you do that and you feel good and you know what you need to do, then obviously you need to take action. But it's a lot easier to take action when you feel good, because you're asking yourself the right questions. So you almost feel like this heightened state as if you can do it. So you start to believe you can do it. And then stepping through those fear doors becomes easier because you're asking your brain the right questions. So it's finding all the good that it can find to make you feel like you have the ability to do it.
Yeah. And I was just thinking too about like people who, because like being a mental performance coach, I work with coaches that are, twice my age. And some of the coaches ask me like to help them. They feel like they're lost in life and they're
Really?
like, 50, 60 years old. They feel like they just woke up one day and they were like, man, like I feel so off track. I don't know how my life got to this point.
Wow.
How do I get back? And it does start with quality questions, and it starts with you sitting down and writing or thinking to yourself, talking to yourself out loud about, okay, what is it that I want? What am I unhappy with right now?
Mm-hmm.
And when you can acknowledge that, when you start, one of the things I've been playing around with, I've been working with this guy, Greg Warburton, out of Corvallis, Oregon. He works with Oregon State baseball.
Nice.
And he's been doing like 40 plus years of working with people with intense trauma. And he says that the first thing you need to do is be completely honest with yourself. And when you say something like, when I'm being honest with myself, I am thinking, feeling, or behaving this way. And then when you answer that and you finish that sentence, so it could be like something like, when I'm being honest with myself, I am unhappy with my life. Or when I'm being honest with myself, I am nervous about this upcoming presentation. When you're honest with yourself about those feelings that you are having, then you can make a change. But if you aren't honest with yourself like that, and you're just trying to like stack positive and productive thoughts on top of that shaky ground, that negative emotion or that unproductive thought that you have in your head, then you're just building on sand instead of getting down to the bedrock where you can actually build a a mansion on.
Yeah. Well, and like I like to think of it as like a magnifying glass. What you what you constantly think of and ask yourself, your brain will magnify, like we said. So if you ask yourself bad questions, you're going to get a bad answer. But also, if you focus on the things that, if you keep asking yourself, like, okay, I don't want this in my life anymore, and you focus on the things that you don't want, your brain is still going to be focused on all those things you don't want. So you're still going to be in a low state because you're thinking of all those things, and it's telling you about all those things. It's like, no, you don't want this. And it's like still bringing it to the surface, like things from the past, because what you focus on, you magnify. So if you focus on things you don't want, you're going to get the things you don't want. So I think people need to wake up and realize, what do I want? And like almost act as if you already have those things in your life. Like every morning I wake up, I look at myself in the mirror and I'll be like, dude, you're a CEO of the best yoga studio out there. Like, honestly, I look myself in the eyes and say that because your brain can't tell the difference from reality and what's imaginary. Like it's that, like it just can't tell the difference. So if you shape your brain into thinking that those things are already true, then it's going to find things that will actually make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and that's the second step. So the first step is admitting the feelings you're having or the actions you're taking.
Yeah.
And then the second step is, okay, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you build off of that. And yeah, your brain, there is a lot of research behind that,
Right.
behind like how your brain doesn't know the difference between what you vividly imagine and what is physically experienced.
Totally.
So that's like, if you think about it, that's why you wake up in the middle of the night when you had a bad dream and your heart's
Yeah.
racing.
I
And
was, I was just about to say the exact same thing.
so like it's pretty cool. And that's the power of imagery and sports and performance in
Totally.
general. Like imagining yourself up there giving a speech to 40,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
or getting up there and imagining yourself pull 1,000 pounds off the ground,
Exactly.
whatever your,
Oh
do you
yeah,
have
and
a,
like we've heard it all the time. Like Michael Jordan imagined him making every shot that he's ever made. Like it's so cool. And like
there's a great story. Phil Mickelson gave a speech one time uh, at he was at a university talking to a golf team, and the name of the speech was, "I've never missed a 3-foot putt, and I've never 3-putted on the final hole of a major championship."
oh, I
And
gotta listen to that.
and so he gets up there and he gives this great speech about how he's never missed a 3-foot putt, and he's never 3-putted on the final hole of a major championship. And this kid stands up and he goes, "Excuse me, like Phil, I've definitely seen you miss a 3-foot putt, and I've definitely seen you 3-putt on the final hole of a major championship. So like, what gives?" And Phil just looks him right in the eye and he goes, "I've never missed a 3-foot putt, and I've never 3-putted on the final hole of a major championship." And afterwards, the kid goes up to the guy who tells the story is Bob Rotella, another sports psych. And so the kid goes up to Bob afterwards and he goes, like, "Mr. Rotella, he's lying. I know he's lying. What gives?" And Bob just looks him right in the eye and he goes, "Hey, listen, like Phil came here today to talk about his mindset. He didn't come here today to hear about yours." I was like, damn,
Damn.
got him, boy.
Holy crap. That's
it's
awesome.
it's like, and
That's awesome.
that's why, I mean, that's one of the reasons he's so great. Another story about Phil Mickelson is like, when how like great his flop shot is.
Yeah, yeah.
So what he does with his flop shot is he imagines a hula hoop in the sky, and he imagines himself hitting the ball up through this hula hoop and it landing exactly where he wants it to. And then he plays it backward from that spot, back up through the hula hoop and down to his club, and then he takes the swing and he does it. And he does. I mean, he's one of the greatest flop shot artists of all
That's so
time.
cool. I
Yeah.
gotta watch that.
Yeah. There's a great video on Instagram of him hitting so he's in front of a cardboard cutout of himself, and he hits a perfect flop shot right over the top of his cardboard cutout head. And I mean, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I
That's
mean, the
crazy.
greatest in the world, like you said, they imagine themselves having success over and over and over
Over.
and over again. There's another great story about Manny Ramirez when he played, he would watch a 5-minute highlight video of himself every day. And he puts his headphones on, he listens to his favorite music, and he pulls open his iPad and he would watch himself just ripping doubles in the gap, hitting home runs, like absolutely squaring balls up and mashing them into the left field bleachers, center field bleachers, right field bleachers, like just tanks everywhere. And he was just ingraining that success in his mind over and over and over and over and over again. And I got this story from one of my friends who played professionally, and he said that he would go in at the same time Manny would, but he would be in there for an hour trying to figure out why he was striking out so much. So while my friend who didn't have the same career as Manny was watching himself strike out hundreds of times a day, Manny was in there watching himself
crush it,
have insane success on the field.
Well, that's right. If your buddy focused on what he didn't want, so he kept getting what he didn't want instead of focus, like it's just, that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Focus on what you do want, so then you keep watching what you do want, and that's awesome.
It's so funny too, because Matt Della Vega.
Yeah.
So he called me up. He called me up earlier this season. He played at McKendree. He just graduated. Congratulations, Matt, on the graduation, if you're listening to this. But
I miss that dude.
He calls me up and he goes, "Man, Tyler, like I feel like every time I go up to the plate, I strike out. Or like I'm not necessarily thinking about striking out, but I am striking out like a lot right now." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what are you thinking about?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not really thinking about anything." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we probably are thinking about something, first of all." Like our brain, we have basically two parts of our brain. We have like our working memory, our short-term memory up front, and then we have our automatic memory in back. So like in order to get to that automatic part of our brain, though, we need to fill our short-term memory with some intense focus. And so he said he's not thinking about anything, where in reality he might have been thinking about, striking out or just not performing the way he wanted to perform. So I invited him to try out thinking about what he does want. I'm like, "What do you want?" He's like, "I want to barrel up balls." So I was like, "Well, just think about barrel. Just think about the barrel all the time." I'm like, "Smell the barrel. Try and hear what the barrel's saying. Like, feel the barrel. Like, love that barrel. Hold the barrel." And he calls me back the next day. He's like, "Dude, Pazik, I went 3 for 4 today." He's like, "But I had 4 ropes, and the only thing I was thinking at the plate was barrel, 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 barrel." And what did he do? He barreled up the ball more consistently. So it's like, yeah, man, we got to fill our heads with things that we do want to do.
Oh, it's crazy. I love how the brain works, and it's just like, that's such a good story, and that works perfect to what we're saying, because it's true. I mean, what you focus on, you magnify. If you
it's become things.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so like with lifting and stuff, are you like lifting competitively or lifting for anything right now?
So no, just because with me trying to open up the studio, I don't know when like the ball is going to drop and be like, "Hey, we got this spot," because as soon as that happens, like that's where my focus will be. I mean, obviously I need to get my lifts in just for me mentally, because that is my getaway, but eventually I will. I mean, I'm still doing like intensive bodybuilding training, just keeping that physique, and I'm setting goals for myself, so competitively with myself, and like I'm trying to get to 240 by September 5th, and like that is a huge goal for me weight wise. Trying to be like the leanest 240.
Where are you at right now?
217 as of this morning.
217, and then okay, that seems doable in my head. What are you trying to do, like a pound a week?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Pound a week, nice and healthy. Not trying to blow it out of proportion.
Yeah, so I'm just I'm setting my own goals for myself in the gym, and obviously I visualize, like I'll look at my program for the day and I'll visualize myself doing all the movements and like the speed in which I want to do it, and every single weight that I think that I'm going to do, I end up doing like 5 pounds more. with like controlled and tempo, just because I'm constantly like, even when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, like I'll look at, all right, today's leg day. So I'll imagining like I'll just brush my teeth and I'll go through my squat pretending that like, 400 pounds on my back. So I'll brace as if it's already on my back and like do it 10 times while I'm brushing my teeth. And when I get into the gym, it's like, it feels like nothing. It feels like I'm just going through the motions. So, I don't know. I think
who's the guy who's the bodybuilder that would like tell his muscles to grow?
CT Fletcher.
CT Fletcher. All right. Yeah.
You to grow.
That's what I thought about when I saw your post. Was it like yesterday or 2 days ago, where you're like, you have to be in your muscle, like you have to be thinking about your muscle, the one that you want to work, like you have to like focus on that one. And that's what I thought about. I'm like, he's basically just being like, he's doing lat pull downs and he's thinking about his lat and he's like, grow. Because like Jimmy Holbrook, he's one of my other good friends. He would we would do arm day and he would be yelling at my arm to grow. It was like the funniest thing.
It's so funny because people think that's annoying, but for me, like whenever I'm in a low state or whatever, and sometimes I'm in the gym and it's like, I do not want to be here. So I'll just like clap in my face and I'll just yell at Lifetime and be like, woo! Because instantly, like if you do something weird to get people's attention, like your brain will wake up and it's like, it puts you in a higher state because you're making people laugh and you're making people like, what the fuck is this kid's problem? And like knowing that just puts you in a goofy mood and then you're ready to go. So like, I envy people who are just obnoxious.
Yeah, man, you gotta give energy to get energy.
Exactly.
But if you don't give it, you ain't gonna get it. So like when you're clapping your hands, and actually there's like a lot of research out there around like just clapping your hands and how that opens up, like that gives you more energy, literally. It releases those like feel-good hormones in you when you like hit your chest or you hit your hands together, or that's why like giving a high five to somebody, or knuckle bumping them, freaking chest bumping, whatever, like that's why you get so much more energy after you do that, because like there's that energy transfer one, but like you got to give that energy to get that energy. So I always tell
people to just go nuts.
Well, I always tell coaches, I'm like, it's your job to give energy. And there was a great article like a while back on Kevin Garnett and the Celtics and how they were like the touchiest team in the NBA. And they were always, giving butt slaps, high fives, touching each other. And they wound up like doing really well that year in the NBA. So I bring up that article. I'm like, hey, listen, like it's your job to give energy. You should be giving out more touches than any other person on the team.
Yeah.
So, and I try to do the same. Now, when I was running that 100, I didn't have, there's nobody crossing by me to give energy to. So thank goodness I had like Instagram and people like that, because like that was my way. And then having my crew there, Cody and Jimmy, like, oh my gosh, they'll never understand how much they helped me get through that, because like every time I saw them, it just, my morale went up, and like they'd be like holding their shirts over their head and like shaking their freaking bellies and stuff like that. But like they were giving me so much juice, and I'm sure they were juicing themselves up in the process.
Oh yeah. As soon as when I saw Gord like post that I needed to share something, like it was like afternoon. I was relaxing and like I was pretty tired, but I saw that and I was like, I just stood up and I started hyping myself up. I was like, all right, man, let's fucking go. Let's hype this kid up.
and then you were like, on the other side of fear,
it's greatness.
It's greatness. That I've been saying that ever since I saw your post.
Dude. Right. But I was gonna say, and like when people are in high energy states, it helps them do. Like if you, let's say I read this in Tony Robbins, one of his books, and he was saying like, let's say you set yourself a diet that you needed to follow because you had a goal of losing weight, and you're like out with your family and you're really tempted by, like a dessert or something that your family's having, and you're really tempted and you're like seconds away from eating that. He says literally stand up and just like hit yourself in the chest, or just like do something weird, just be like, yeah, I really want that right now, or like something. It's so obnoxious to like get people to look at you, because instantly, like he said, your brain will just be awake and you'll feel more energy, and you'll sit back down and you'll have no, you won't even want to look at it. You'll just be like, yeah, all right, it's done. Like, yeah, I really wish I wanted that. And then you'll sit back down and like people will be laughing and you won't have the need to want it anymore. It's like, it's so cool.
That's such an interesting way to deal with cravings.
Right?
I wonder. So I just had one of my friends hit me up about wanting to quit smoking. Now I'm gonna bring that up to her. Be like, okay,
Seriously.
every time you want to like go out and smoke, just like hit yourself. I
Like,
really want to smoke right now.
and that was literally his next example for people who like do drugs. He's like, literally just do something so obnoxious, like skip around your neighborhood to like get people to look at you, because laughter is stronger than like any drug that we can ever find. So when you start to skip around your neighborhood and you see people laughing at you, like it just makes you feel happier, so you won't want to do those things.
Dude, I actually, so I have this like 35-day mindfulness series,
Yeah.
and I think day like 32 or 33 is like go for a skip around your neighborhood.
Awesome.
Like
Awesome.
if you're feeling uh like anxious or depressed or like irritated, frustrated, I'm like,
Yeah.
go skip down the street. I'm like, my girlfriend Amy, she would literally skip home from work some days. She used to work
Awesome.
at OTF in Chicago. In Chicago. So there are hundreds of people on the street at all times. And she's down there just skipping by
Oh
everybody
man.
and enjoying life. And she like would come home after one of those times where she was skipping, like elated, just
That's amazing.
ecstatic, through the roof, energy, just out the yin yang. And she would have been working for 4 or 5 hours at that point, and
Yeah.
been up since 3:30 in the morning. And she's coming home with all this juice, and it's because, yeah, she would do something like that.
It's
So
so crazy how, and that's one reason why I'm just excited to start I don't want to call it like a yoga studio. I want it to be like a lifestyle, because I want to create this mindset where like people need to realize they can literally change the way they feel instantly. No matter like what season you're going through in your life, like the worst depression, anxiety, like you have the power to instantly change your state of mind and how you feel in that very moment. But it's your choice. Like if it's going on a skip, you got to just not care what people think about you and go fucking do it, because it's going to make you feel awesome.
when's the last time you've been in a funk and you've used a technique like that to instantly
Ooh.
change yourself?
Honestly, so this like past couple months I've been struggling mentally, just because like with opening the studio and stuff like that, like real estate's not my expertise and it's taking so long. So I'm just like, when I get done with my workout or I'm done teaching, like I'm at home and I'm reading and I'm just with myself and I feel bored. So it's like easy to fall into that trap where it's like you're worthless and like you have nothing, whatever. Just it's easy to fall into that when you're just at home doing like bored. And I'm trying to learn more and read more, but it's tough when you're just like waiting. So whenever I feel like that, like when I wake up in the morning, as soon as my alarm goes off, like I need to jump out of bed, because like energy just needs to move. And if you lay down in bed right away, I mean, everyone's heard this all the time. If you lay down for like 5 minutes, then the rest of your day will be very lazy and you'll just feel in a low state. So as soon as I wake up, jump out of bed. And if I ever feel that moment where like my brain wants to tell me, you're so bored right now, you're being like, you're worthless, whatever, all this stuff, I'll play the music that I teach in my class and I'll like literally pretend like I'm teaching a class, because that gives me the most like highest energy. Like that is my element. So I'll just pretend like I'm teaching and I'll blast like EDM music and just fucking go nuts.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And actually, there's
Even
the research behind hitting snooze and not getting out of bed is that you're in a lower state cognitively for up to 4 hours after that. So if you hit snooze once, you're already pissing away the first 4 hours of your day because
that's so scary.
just because of that. And it's like if you want to be, I mean, I'm sure you're the same way, but it's like you want to be great at what you do,
The
you know?
best.
And it's
Yeah,
like, if you want to be that way, then you cannot hit snooze.
totally.
One, because you got to get out of bed and get shit done, but also because like if you do and you're like, oh man, I just need 15 more minutes. Well, that 15 more minutes is actually 4 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So are you willing to do that to yourself?
yeah.
And I mean, for high performers, the answer is no every time. But
Hmm.
I mean, also people are just ignorant to that.
Yeah. And like for you and I, we're trying to set examples. We're trying to change people's lives. So like it's just, we need to do it because you need to practice what you preach and you need to experience things for yourself. So I think it's important for me to realize the season that I'm going through. And I really have been like, it's been when I got back from Peru, like I was so high in Peru after like 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks were horrible, and like I actually got to enjoy the last week, and I didn't want to leave. And I was just like, I felt like myself, and I was so happy, and I had all these ideas. But as soon as I got home, it was like a semi truck hit me, and I just felt like there was nothing, and I was like, holy crap. So I also think it's important to, well, I know it's important to like realize the struggles, because I mean it's never easy for anyone. And like in my classes I share about how I go through the same struggles, and because people need, that's how you authenticity, and that's how you gain like the following that you want, because people need to realize that you and I are the exact same as them. We're learning those skills to help others, and they need to, I don't know, it's just cool to like put ourselves on the same level as them, so it helps them realize that they're not alone.
Hmm. And also like emotions, we can't control our emotions.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we have a stimulus that comes in from the outside world, and our emotional center, it goes through the emotional center of our brain first, and we instantly have this happiness that hits us, or we have this like depression or fear that hits us, or sadness or grief,
Yeah.
or self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, or the other way around. You know, we get this incredible boost of confidence from something, you know, somebody says something to us. And so we can't control those emotions, but we can take a breath and give that stimulus time to get to the rational side of our brain, and we can make a rational decision and a productive thought that leads to a productive action, hopefully. So I think it's like making everybody aware that, hey, like we do feel fear, we do feel self-doubt. Like, man, I still feel self-doubt when I walk in and give a presentation in front of a group of athletes,
Totally.
you know, but like I do it anyways, because I know at the end of the day that my experiences and my knowledge can actually help people and help them change, because
Yeah.
it's helped me. And you were talking about talking
Yeah.
the talk, or walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And it's like,
Yeah.
I have always kind of in the back of my head looked at like fat coaches, and I've been like, how are you going to tell an athlete to do something if like you're not doing it yourself? You know, like that is the definition of a hypocrite. And I do not, at the
Oh,
end of the day, want to ever be like that. Like I want to say I'm going to do something
never.
and do it, and I want to make sure that like if I'm talking to an athlete about changing their life and I'm like, hey, this strategy works, but like how do I know it works? It's because I've used it myself, and I've seen other
Exactly.
people use it, and it's time tested, and it's research tested, you know, and like that's what I want. So it like
Exactly.
it does piss me off when other people, you know, are telling people to be a certain way when they're not being that way themselves. But that pisses
Mhm.
me off because like that, like I don't want to be like that, you know, like deep down, like
Totally.
I see myself in them in some way, and I don't want to be
Yeah.
like that. Um,
Well, and you're obsessed with changing like people's mindset to like be their fullest potential, and when you see that, it makes you mad, because like even at Lifetime, there's like 5 trainers that are like managers that are out of shape. Like, how does that work? Lifetime is a corporate gym, like the most famous gym in the United States, and you're all about wealth and fitness, and the manager is fatter than their client. That doesn't make sense to me. And it's just, it'll continue this cycle of just unhealthiness, because what they're teaching the client is not going to help them, but they keep coming back and they're not unlocking anything within themselves. And it's just this cycle. It's scary. It's
Yeah,
so
man,
scary.
it is. Um, shit, I just had this thought in my head about walking the walk. Oh no, I forgot. But
But I was going to say too, when people like with you and I can tell, like when we feel fear and anxiety, it comes back to asking the right questions. And that's where people, um, fall with that, because when I feel fear and I feel scared and I feel this like self-doubt, I ask myself the question, it's like, okay, like I acknowledge this feeling. What can I learn from it? Like, why am I going through it? Why is this happening to me right now? And then your brain will start to figure out like why it happened, and you can fix that problem. And hopefully it's making you, I mean, most of the time it's making you stronger. So then you can help someone who may come to you and went through the similar situation. So you can sit them down and like connect on that level. So whenever I feel fear and I feel really down, I always ask myself, like, what can I learn from what's happening right now?
when did you start? When did you make that flip in your head to like start asking yourself better questions?
When I got back from Peru.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Did they talk about that there, or like
no,
who
they
did you
didn't.
who like taught you to ask yourself better questions?
Like, it was a skill that I picked up from being with myself so much in Peru, like with the waking up and not talking to anyone for 2 hours. Like, you have no other choice but to be with yourself and to think about what's going on in your head and the ways that you think and the way that your brain thinks in just basic situations like interactions with people. Like, sometimes you're walking on the street and you see someone walking towards you and instantly your brain's like, look down, because you like, I don't want to talk to this person. Like, it's crazy. You get to realize how your brain thinks in situations. And like, I didn't understand how. And like when we first got there the first day, they're like, every morning we're gonna have silence, and I was like, oh, that's stupid. Like, I don't see the benefit in that. And like after the third day, I was like, this is hard. This is not easy, because I was so stubborn, because I knew my brain was just so screwed up and I didn't want to sit with it and I didn't want to realize what was going on within it. So I think going through that, it made me like come up with ways to make myself feel better when I realized how crazy my brain was, and it didn't make me feel good to like realize how it acted in certain situations. So I started asking myself better questions, like what I would ask, like, why does my brain think like this in this situation? Like, what happened in the past? Like, why is it doing this? Why is it thinking the way that it is and stuff like that? And then when I got back, I started reading more, and Tony Robbins talks about it. He says that in order to feel better and change your state instantly, you need to ask questions. And I was like, oh, that's what I just went through, because I sat with myself for so long and realized that. And when you do that, you come up with ways that make you feel better, and you kind of shape this strategy that'll help you. So it was cool.
How does like somebody get that alone time though when there's so many things that distract us in life? One of the things that I ask athletes a lot, I'm like, how do you escape from softball, or how do you escape from baseball, or how do you get away from your sport? And a lot of my athletes say, oh, I sit down and I watch Netflix and that helps me get away. And I'm just like,
Nope.
what's one reason you watch Netflix? Like, why does that make you feel that way? Like, and how does that help you long term? Because I feel like watching Netflix or getting on
Anything
Instagram and
electronically.
distracting yourself,
Your brain
that
is not
helps
gonna.
short term.
Yeah.
It helps short term, but it doesn't help long term. So how does somebody invite stillness and being alone into their life?
So I actually created a 100-day challenge through, like, I have a Savage Sculpt Instagram page, which is my brand that I'm trying to create. And I created this 100-day challenge, and today's day 18, and like 100 people signed up, and I email them every day and there's 5 set challenges that they need to do every day. And it's as soon as you wake up, no phone for 30 minutes, instantly take a cold shower for 60 seconds just because of like the benefits. And when you, I mean, no one ever wants to do a cold shower. I mean, I still do not want to do it, and I've been doing it for a year, like every morning. But when you do something that your brain doesn't want to do as soon as you wake up, it leads to making harder decisions like later in your day. Like it triggers your mind to do stuff that is uncomfortable, intentionally putting yourself in uncomfortable situations because you did it as soon as you wake up. So it's no phone for 30 minutes, cold shower, read 10 physical pages of an entrepreneurial book, and no cheat meals, no alcohol, and then no phone for an hour before bed, and then 10-minute walks after each meal with no phone. And I created that in Peru. That was one of the ideas that I came up with, and I was like, this is something I need to do for the community. And I think because in Chicago, there's, I mean, in any city, there's so many distractions around us, like, you know, loud noises, cars. Like, I didn't realize how, like, how distraction filled my life was until I got to Peru and there was just silence. Like, the people work there didn't talk. You just hear nature, and you just like, I realized I had freaking tinnitus, like my ears constantly ringing because like I didn't realize I had that in Chicago because everything's so loud. But in Peru, like it was so quiet that I just heard this constant ringing. Like I didn't realize I even had that in my ears, which was scary to me, and I gotta fix that. But so yeah, I thought of like ways that you can have that alone time in a place like Chicago or in any city that is so distraction filled. And I mean, I've been doing it for day 18 or since I got back from Peru. So like 4 months now, and the challenge just started because I wanted to test it out a little bit before I shared it, and it works. I mean, like it gives you the right alone time. And like I said, the walks is where you become with great ideas. And if you don't, people who wake up and look at Instagram right away, instantly your brain is going to start thinking about that, and you're not going to have that internal reflection that you need every single day. Because when you wake up and you don't look at anything and you're just with yourself, that's when your brain starts to think of new ideas and just focus on what you want to accomplish that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. How do you, or what suggestions do you give to somebody that when they wake up, their alarm clock is on their phone?
So for me, because I use my phone. So I flip it over on the side and it'll keep going off for 30 minutes, but I'll just keep clicking the button on the side that turns it off, and I'll shove it under like 10 pillows. Obviously, I think there's an easier way to do that, like get an actual clock. But, but yeah, I'll literally just click the button and then I'll hide it under a lot of things so I can barely hear it. I'll be like brushing my teeth.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's so ridiculous on so many levels, but it's awesome. I know. What I do is I have this G-Shock watch, yeah. And I've been playing with the idea of getting a smartwatch for months now, like maybe even years, just to like help me like keep my cadence with running and like going out, and then I can run without my phone and like just have the GPS on my watch. But at the same time, like I don't want all that technology on my wrist. Like,
no.
And so what I've been doing recently, when I was in, I went out and I dog sitted at my girlfriend's cousin's house a couple weekends ago, and I kept plugging in my phone downstairs, and I was upstairs. And I'm like, crap, how am I going to wake up in the morning? And I started using the alarm clock on my wristwatch.
And it works well?
It works perfect, dude. Like I just put it, I mean, I don't sleep with my watch on, but like I put it right next to my head, and I set my alarm in the morning for 7 a.m. and this goes off and I wake up, and now I don't even have to look at my phone until I'm done with my morning routine. You know,
I need to do that.
And so I love it. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Because when I would open up my phone to like turn off my alarm, I would see all the texts and messages that I had, and I'm like, I hate this because now I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about how my buddy said, hey, can we do this or like whatever. whatever the text was, like I'm thinking about that in the background as I'm trying to do my morning journal, you
Totally.
know?
Totally.
So it helps a lot. Like just not looking at your phone is so
It's so
huge.
important. I need to do that and that's good advice to give people because for me, I have the mental strength to like touch my phone and click that side button to turn it off. But people, as soon as they touch their phone, it's like, oh, maybe I'll just like look at it really quick to turn off the alarm so it doesn't go off again. And then you'll see like all the Instagram notifications. And then instantly you're like thinking, oh, who's engaging with me? Like, even if you put it back down, you've already saw it. So you're going to think about it.
Yeah, it's called the scientific term is called attention residue.
Okay.
So when we go from task to task, so say we have three tasks, A, B, and C. If we do task A and then we switch over to task B, we're still thinking about task A in the
Mm.
background. And then when we switch over to C, we're still thinking about task A and B in the background of our brain. They're still working there. So like in the morning, task A is Instagram and task B is being with yourself and journaling. You're not
Oh,
giving yourself fully to task B because you're still thinking about Instagram in the background.
that's
So,
so true. That's
so
so true.
yeah, it's
Wow.
but yeah, I use my wristwatch now, and
All
it's
right.
I mean it's awesome.
And I have a
I
watch
really
too. I
love it.
never even thought about that.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you're growing up and like I don't know at your house, but we had like three kind of these type of stopwatches in a
Yeah.
cabinet at our house, and every day the freaking alarm would go off, and I'd be like,
Shaking
"What
the
is that? What is
cabinet.
that noise?" And I'd open up the cabinet and I'd search through like the junk, or I'd search through the junk drawer if they were in there, and I'd find that stupid wristwatch or that watch we had, the alarm going off, and I'd turn it off. Or like you're like, what is that noise, man? But yeah, I think that's a great way to. I think those three strategies you just gave: one, being with yourself in the morning for at least 30
Yeah.
minutes; two, being with yourself at night for at
Oh,
least an
totally.
hour before. And
Yeah.
like that helps you shut down too, man. Like blue
Uh-huh.
light from your phone and your TV, like just blows up your melatonin, which is your natural hormone to
Yeah.
fall asleep. And
Yeah.
people, I mean, melatonin's got it. I don't know what the stats are, so don't quote me on this, but it's got to be
Yeah.
one of the most like highest revenue drugs out there because
Totally.
I know so many people that take melatonin at night. And it's
It's,
like, dude, all you got to do is not watch TV and you'll fall asleep. Like,
yep.
uh, also when you mess with your hormones like that, you're putting into your body something that's naturally made, so your body doesn't make it anymore,
Yep.
right? And then when you get off of melatonin, you try to get off of melatonin, you're like, oh, I can't fall asleep, and it's a terrible cycle to
No
get on.
shit.
Yeah, no shit. You've just been artificially making
Yeah.
melatonin. Now your body's like, oh, we don't need to make this anymore.
Exactly. And it's crazy too. Like even if you have the littlest light in your room, your body won't release melatonin. Like you need to sleep in pitch black.
Yeah, like
It's
I
insane.
think what is the standard? Like you shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your
Yeah, yeah,
face.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And so even 8 lumens of light, 8 lumens, which is like nothing, that
Nothing.
that blows up your melatonin by 50%.
It's crazy. And what was I gonna say? Um, even they say that if you have electronics in your room that have Wi-Fi running, so if like your laptop's on, it'll release your melatonin too. Like just the Wi-Fi connections going through your room, like connecting, like that'll ruin your melatonin too. Crazy.
Dang, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I just learned about that like a month ago.
Interesting. Well, living in an apartment complex, there's no chance I'm getting away from that Wi-Fi problem. But I'm gonna try everything else
Yeah,
in my power because like sleep is the
number
keystone,
one
man.
for anything,
Hmm.
for anything. Like you want to accomplish any goal, you need sleep. That's number one. Like the one guy that I envy, Stan Efferding, he trains the world's strongest men. He's literally told his athletes, he's like, I would rather you sleep in than like miss a morning workout because like if you fall asleep at 1 in the morning and you're getting up at 6, that's not grinding like that. Like you're not going like sure you're working hard, but you're doing your body so much damage.
Yeah, my friend Jimmy just told me this quote. He said, "If you are missing out on sleep to wake up and work out in the morning, you're stepping over $100 bill to pick up some nickels.
Yeah, that's Stan Efferdine. That's his quote. That's
Oh,
his
that's
quote.
Stan? Okay, yeah. I heard that from Jimmy. I didn't
I
know that
literally
was
was just picking up my phone because I knew I saved it on my Instagram. I literally, like, it's so funny you said that. I had that quote stuck in my head, and I forgot how it was worded, so I was about to look at it. But yeah, that was
yeah,
Stan.
man. And like, I mean, he trains the greats, and he knows, like, if you are not sleeping, you are, again, stepping over $100 bill to pick up some nickels. And everybody wants to rip on sleep, I feel like, or everybody thinks that they can get by on 6 hours. And
Totally.
they've been getting by on 6 hours for so long that they forgot what it's like to be fully rested. You know?
Exactly.
And so one thing that I do with my athletes, I was like, what's it feel like when you get over 7.5 hours of sleep? What's it like when you get under 7.5 hours of sleep? When's the last time you got 9 hours of sleep? And like when you build awareness around that, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I'm so much more energetic. I'm so much more
Totally.
focused. I'm so much like smarter intellectual with my
Seriously.
conversations.
Seriously.
So, but
It's
yeah,
so
it all
true.
starts with sleep. I think, in my opinion, I think sleep is number one,
Mm-hmm.
and then diet is number two,
For sure.
movement is number three,
Mm-hmm.
and then meditation and mindset is
Yeah.
like number 3 or 4 and 5.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. There is no doubt. Yeah, for you to have any sort of change, your sleep and diet have to be there.
Yeah. Well,
And I was telling, what's up?
I was going to talk about diet a little bit, but
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
No, I was gonna say, and I always tell people, like, the best diet for you is one that you can follow. Like, because so many people are like, oh, I got this new diet, and then they'll improvise and like substitute things, but not knowingly, like improvising anything, like in any situation, when you improvise, you're giving your brain, like the thought that you can switch things up and it's okay. But it's not. Like, it's not okay. It's like even something as little as a diet, as soon as you improvise, you're giving your brain that okay to improvise in other situations in your life, which will lead to a path that you don't want to take.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's brilliant. If you can't follow a diet, then
How
what's
are
the
you going
point
to
of it?
follow like any sort of discipline in your life?
Yeah, one thing that I always say is like, what's one thing that I can do to change my diet in a productive way? So then it's like, okay, well, what's one thing I
Yeah.
could do? I could probably stop drinking cola or soda. It's like, okay, that one thing, that's all you need to do. Just one thing. Keep everything else the same,
Totally.
and
Totally.
cut that out. And then
Exactly.
you just ask yourself that question
Little
every
changes.
Monday or whatever. Ask
Yeah.
yourself that question every
Yeah.
every first of the month. It doesn't have to be often. Like you said, small
Totally.
changes over time leads to greater changes, and greater
Bigger
changes leads to
changes.
greater
And yeah.
success, man.
Exactly.
What I was going to bring up
Yeah.
about diet
Exactly.
though was how like our diet influences our brain so much with like depression that it's
Mm.
insane, man. Like something like you're 60% more likely to have depression if you eat flour, like just or like the standard American diet. You're 60% more likely. And if you follow like more of a Mediterranean diet, you're 27% less likely to have depression. So like if you were starting
Wow.
out at a base of 1, right? Say everybody started out at 1. If you followed a Mediterranean diet, you'd be 27% less likely. And if you followed the standard American diet, you'd be 60% more likely. So you're twice as likely to have depression that like just by following the standard American diet, which is a lot of processed food and a lot of
Yeah.
terrible, terrible
Oh,
stuff for you.
yeah.
Sugar,
Well,
flour.
think about this. Like, how can something stay on a shelf for 8 years and we think it'll digest in our body in 8 hours? Like, seriously,
That's a
it's
good one. I've never heard someone say it like that.
it's so scary,
Yeah,
terrifying.
it is, man. But like, there's not. I think education around nutrition and diet is lacking so hard. And you were talking about like the school systems. Like, I ever learned about that sort of long-term life satisfaction stuff in school.
Ever, right?
It's
Nothing.
it's crazy. I
Nothing.
never really learned, we'd go to gym and PE class, but like we weren't educated on why that's important, or
Nothing.
like how you go into a school cafeteria and there's crap food everywhere. And
Everywhere.
like we never were, but I honestly think that they don't know either.
No, they don't.
Like
That's a fact for sure. Like and that's what I say. Like teachers, like if you're going to be a health ed teacher, you need to be passionate in what you're doing. You need to be experienced. Like diet comes down to experience. Like people who have tried a lot of things know what works for them and preach about it.
mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? And there was none of that when I was in school. I totally had to go like just on my own and like during bodybuilding competition, like talking to people who did this diet. And like when I was in bodybuilding, it was like, all right, eat whatever you want as long as it fits like the right protein and carbs numbers. Like, oh, this is cool. Like I'm having fun, but I felt like shit because I'm eating shit. Like protein cookies, so healthy for you, 0 calories when they're infused with fucking preservatives and all this crap that can create chronic diseases.
Yeah, for real. Ah, man, it's like so just insane to me. And I'm not saying that like you were talking about like cheat days, no cheat days or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, oh fuck.
Like you gotta, I feel there's a lot of research out there too about like how you have to give in to your cravings sometimes,
Totally, totally.
but not all the time,
No.
right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you look at Dwayne The Rock Johnson, his Instagram page, like every Saturday he's posting like a stack of pancakes that's as big as his body. Like, I mean, there is a science behind it, and cheat meals I think are important for sure. But yeah, when people take cheat meals too seriously and they have them every day.
Yeah. After my 100 miler, like working my way up to my 100 miler, I was like, I love apple pie. I am going to smash
Awesome.
apple pie after my 100 miler. So I
Oh
bought
yeah.
the day before, I buy this huge apple pie and I'm like, I'm going to eat this whole thing when I get home. And I got home and I looked at it and I was like, this, I can't do it, man. Like it
Yeah.
just looks so unappetizing. And I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it until 3 days later. And I finally ate like a little slice of it and it tasted, I didn't enjoy it at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I hadn't had apple pie in such a long time that my taste buds changed. And
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
and like
They
that,
do.
that sugary, like
Yeah.
crispy sweetness that I absolutely loved before.
It's
Now I'm
gone.
like, man, it's just not satisfying. Like
But
this, I'm like, I hate this, but I'm gonna eat it anyways.
it's funny you brought that up because so Stan Efferding, the guy that we were just talking about, I've been following his vertical diet for over a year now, and it's literally sticking to whole foods. So it's like grass-fed steak, grass-fed ground meat with white rice because white rice is the cleanest and fastest absorbing carb that your body can intake. So it's like I'm eating just eggs for breakfast and then lean grass-fed steak and white rice like 6 times a day, and that's all I eat. And like I've become so obsessed with that just because who doesn't love steak? And it's just so good for you and like makes you feel full. And it's just amazing that when I would have my cheat meals, now my cheat meals consist of just more steak and like a huge thing of like sweet potatoes because I would go and get like ice cream and I felt like shit because I was so accustomed to sticking to whole foods and sticking to things that were just so natural that my body just fell in love with it. And now I literally cannot eat anything processed or I like just feel horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like I'm drinking like a shit ton of alcohol. Like I get hungover from it. Like I feel so sick to my stomach.
Dude, I know exactly what you mean. Here's my thought on that. It's actually not my thought. I got it from Amy, my girlfriend. We were talking about how like now when I haven't drank in I haven't gotten messed up in a long time
Yeah.
now, like months. But like when you're getting older, you go out and drink, and like your hangovers last like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, and she's like, you know what my theory is? My theory is like we all start out at 100, right? And we do things that keep us at 100 or don't. And when we're younger, we we don't know diet, we don't know how to properly move or do those things to get ourselves up to 100. So we're already starting out at like a 60 or a 70. And
Yeah.
then in college or when you turn 21, you go out and drink, you're taking yourself from a 70 down to like a 40. And then so you're really only losing 30 points. But when you're older and you learn how to take care of yourself and you're moving right and you're sleeping right and you're eating right and you're up at like a 90 or a 95 out of 100, and then you go out and drink and you go down to a 40, you're losing 55 points. So you feel so much worse because you're losing 55 points. And not only that, but it takes you longer just because your body's older to regain those 55 points. Whereas like when you're younger, you can regain those 30 points really quick. So like when you eat like crap, you're draining like if you think about it like a battery level, right? You're at a 95 or 100 because you're eating so clean and you're working out and you're doing all those things. And then you eat a fucking tub of ice cream or something, you're taking yourself down to maybe you're only taking yourself down to like a 70, but that's a 25 point increase,
Wow. That's so true.
So I was like, man, that's such a good visual way to put it.
100%.
And it makes so much sense in my head.
It totally makes so much sense. And like, I'm so glad I got rid of that like alcohol. Like I haven't been drunk in like 3 years, and I just turned 21 and I still haven't had a sip of alcohol. Like I have just the fact of, I just don't get the point. It makes me feel so shitty the next day. So like my workout's shitty, like everything is shitty the next day. So I'm so glad I realized that at a young age, like that I just didn't want to do anything that's going to affect the next day, like my workout and everything.
Yeah. Like your reason for getting up in the morning has to be greater than like your reason for staying up late.
Exactly.
And when you do have that, it's so much easier to make the decision to go to bed. It's so much easier to make the decision not to drink because you know how much it affects your sleep. And again, sleep is number one. So like, and people think that like they are in control when they drink, but like there's so much research out there about how like you're not in control. It affects you on so many different levels.
You're in control. What time are you going to bed? Like 4 a.m? That's not control.
Or even if you're getting to bed on time and you were drinking before that, like you don't get into REM. You don't get those growth hormone releases. So like there's that too. And then you're just waking up and you're already behind the 8 ball the next day. Like going back to that energy battery analogy, like you're starting out the day at an 80 instead of starting out the day at a 95. So
exactly.
It's just like I haven't drank in like I said, like 2 or 3 months. Actually, that's not true. I have drank, but the last time I drank, I was running a marathon, and at mile 25, there were these frat bros handing out beers, and in like those little,
load up on the carbs.
In like liquid those little carbs. Plastic cups, and I've run a bunch of marathons, and I was like, okay, if there's somebody handing out a beer on this one, I am going to absolutely smash it. And so I run by one of those frat boys having he had like the little plastic cups full of beer, and I just run by, grab it, crush it, and then what's funny is like it didn't really affect me because the last mile, the 1.2 miles, I picked it up at mile 25, and then I sprinted the rest of the way in. I was running like 6:30 pace for the last 1.2 miles of that marathon, and I actually forgot that I even grabbed that beer or whatever it was, half a beer, until like weeks later when I was talking to my brother about it. So
you probably honestly like could have just used that boost of carbs. Like it wasn't enough to get you loaded or at all, but like just that little bit of carbs was just like triggered your brain and gave you more energy. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It was like a morale boost more than anything else. I was like, I've never done that before, so like to do it and then just crush the rest of the race like I did, it was fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, man. You got any questions? You got any questions for me?
How do you feel after 100 mile?
How do I feel
Like,
after?
yeah, like mentally, like what are your thoughts and what changed?
Um, I don't know if anything changed. I feel like things were just re-solidified,
Mm,
you know?
mm,
And but for day like even today, I would say today's the first day I'm feeling normal. Like,
cool.
and what am I, 4 days out? Like
Wow.
the last few days, I've just been so up and down. I felt like my brain was in a like a weird fog. uh, I was talking to people. I didn't feel presence, and I would try to I would like breathe and do what I'd normally do, but I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I was just so fatigued that
Mm,
I my body was like, yo, dude, you need to just not do shit. Like
yeah, totally.
rest, man, rest, recover, and then re-engage. And today, I feel like I'm finally re-engaging at a level that I like. I'm not. I guess I'm re-engaging at a level that I'm happy with. Whereas the
Cool.
last few days I would try and talk to people, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, Tyler, what's wrong with you? Oh yeah, you just ran 100 miles." But
Like that happened. That was not a dream.
yeah, uh, one thing that was re-solidified in my brain, I guess, was the last 40 miles. I hated my life. Like I legit hated my life the last 40 miles, and I was like, there are people that hate their life this much on a daily basis, and they
Mm,
just continue to
wow.
hate it and not change anything. And
Wow.
the one thing that I thought was like the the people that this is the first time I'm trying to put this into words too.
Yeah.
I've tried to do it, but it just like
Yeah.
never comes out. So maybe you can help me clarify my
Totally.
thoughts. But like people go through their entire lives, or like they go years and years and years. I went hours hating my life. These people go years unhappy. And I just thought, I'm like, this must be what it feels like to be in a job that you hate and be in a relationship with somebody that you don't like or that you resent.
Wow.
Um, and you're just doing things you don't want to do. And like, this must be what it feels like,
Right
because
away.
I've never felt that way before in my life until that moment. And I wanted nothing more than to quit. But at the end of the day, I knew that it was the goal was right there. The goal was right there. And I
Yeah.
knew what I wanted, and I knew I didn't want to quit.
Instantly, what comes to my head is exactly what we've been talking about, like having breakthroughs. And what you just said, it's like an analogy. Like people are running those last 40 miles, except they're running in a circle. You're going forward. So you're going to finish the 40 miles. They're constantly just running the 40 miles in a circle, so they never finish. So they're just stuck in this loop, and you're having the breakthrough that you need so you can help people get out of that loop that they're stuck in and hating their lives. That's
Hmm.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool.
like I had a finish line. People don't have a finish line, and that's
They don't think about it.
hmm
They
and
just live life.
yeah, exactly. And like then they wake up one day, and like I said, I have literally clients that have woken up and they've been like, "What is my life right now? How did it come to this point?" They're waking up and they're looking next to themselves and they're seeing their wife,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Who am I married to?"
Yeah.
Like they just let
Wow.
their life get away from them,
Wow.
and they didn't know how to break that cycle. And this is the other thing that I've thought about 3 times now, but every time I wanted to bring it up, I forgot during this conversation. Uh, like choosing your own suck,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you need to you have to understand, first of all, that you are always choosing your own suck. When you come to the realization that everything in your life has been because of a decision that you've made or a decision you're currently making, then you can like make a change,
Yeah.
and you can choose what you want. So like I chose my own suck, that 100 miler. I like running, it was my way, and it's going to continue to be my way for a while to kind of get out of my comfort zone and be with myself too. And then also like doing things with my business, like understanding
Yeah.
that like, okay, like I need to do these things to be successful. So
Yeah.
like I am choosing those, or even like my relationships, like I'm choosing my relationships with people.
You're in
Um,
control.
yeah, I am in control of that. And
Yeah.
like there are so much, there are like a lot fewer things in our life that we have control over, but at the same time, like those things that we do have control over, those take up 95% of our life. And when
Yeah.
you're focused on those, like that's when you're going to have success, I think, and happiness and
Totally.
joy, fulfillment, whatever you want to call it.
And the things that you can control, once you control those in a manner in which you are happy with them, then it sets up the other things that you can't control in a, like it makes those better to deal with, because it's the things that you can control, you're setting them up to make you happier. So then the rest of it just kind of just falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
what I see for sure.
exactly. Yeah. So like choosing your own suck. And one way to like do that is I got this from Jesse Itzler. Do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
He's like he's worth like 200 million. He's married to Sarah Blakely, who's the youngest female
Oh, yeah. Okay.
billionaire in history.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I took his class, and it was like an 8-week class. But one of the things that really resonated with me is what he calls Kevin's rule. So he has this friend named Kevin that every 8 weeks, no matter what, Kevin goes and does what he wants to do on the weekend. He's got a family, wife, but he's already set the precedent that, hey, every 8 weeks, I'm going to go do something for me. And I'm going to go get uncomfortable doing it so that I can get out of my routine and just like get back in touch with myself.
Yeah.
So like every 8 weeks, he like goes on a crazy hike by himself, or brings his kids along. You know, it doesn't have to be by himself necessarily. It just
Gotcha.
needs to be something that like gets him out of his comfort zone.
That he's not used to.
Yeah. So every 8 weeks, and I'm like, that's brilliant. And that's what I try and do now too. Is like it's been anywhere from like 7 to 11 weeks so far. Like I will go and do something that I am not comfortable with at all,
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm kind of blowing my routines out of the water so that I can come back with a fresh mind and look at them and be like, okay, like, is this serving me? Is this not serving me?
Yeah.
And doing that with the 100-miler. Right before it, I switched up my routines a little bit because I wasn't happy with them. And after my 100-miler, I came back and I was like, damn, this routine is awesome. And this is the first time I've came back from something like this, and I've looked at myself and I've been like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like this works, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy with my like AM routine and my PM routine right now.
Cool.
So, but
That's awesome.
like doing something hard, getting out of your comfort zone, and not going too far, you know, not pushing yourself insanely far out of your comfort zone where you get into like the shit your pants zone. I don't know, you don't want to get there necessarily, but
sometimes that could be good, I guess.
yeah, right. Once in a while, I almost shit my pants on the 100-miler. Did not, but
yeah. I've shit myself multiple times.
well, there you go, getting out of that comfort zone. So like, but yeah, doing something, getting something on the calendar,
yeah,
getting it written down, and scheduling it.
And one thing I've always thought about, it's like you get so many people where it's like, oh yeah, I'll start it next week or something. And it's like, it seems so simple, but it's so true. Like, do more, talk less. Even if you don't have the knowledge that you think you need to do something, just do it, and you'll figure it out along the way, as long as you're doing it. Because then it's going to not only make your knowledge stronger, but like we said in the beginning, it's going to make you realize how smart you actually are. Like if you just keep waiting and talking, you're actually doing your knowledge a disservice and you're not learning.
Yeah. And if you believe in it, do it. Like
Exactly.
Coaches ask me all the time, oh, should I wait for this for next season or should I do it this season? And I'm like, well, do you believe in it? And they'll be like, yeah, I think it's really going to help me. I'm like, then why the hell wouldn't you do it right now? You know, like
yes,
the
exactly.
stuff I teach coaches and athletes, when they ask me that question, I'm just like, if something is going to help you and you know it's going to help you, why would you not do it right now? You know, like it just doesn't make sense to me, but also it does make sense to them because that's not something they normally do. It's so normal for you to just not take action on something right away.
Yeah.
Because that's that's how most people have been their entire life. They hear something great and they think, oh my gosh, that's an amazing idea, but then they go home and they don't do anything about it, or they don't act on that inspiration or motivation. And like, that's the whole point of motivation, is to get you going, is to get that fire lit within you. But then it's up to you to keep adding the tinder to the fire and building it into a magnificent bonfire.
Exactly. And I always tell people, like, it's not there just to be there. Like, it's happening for a reason. Like, there's a reason why that's happening within you, and you have these moments of just greatness where you're just like, holy crap, I feel like I can conquer the world. Like, that's not happening just because you feel good at that moment. Like, it's your body, it's your brain telling you, like, this is what you need to follow. So wake up. It's not going to come to you.
Yeah, take action on that. And like, everybody after the 100, man, I've never gotten so many people like on Instagram and Facebook and texts and calls. It was awesome. And so many people afterwards said, like Tyler, you've inspired me to do this and do that.
Awesome.
And everybody that said that to me, I said, okay, like, good. I'm glad. When are you starting it? You know, I'm like, when are you taking action? When are you going to implement what you're thinking about? That's like one of my first questions, because then you're holding them accountable. And like, that's one thing that I hold, that like I've been telling myself this quarter, my one word focus has been accountability, not only holding myself accountable, but holding those I work with and I love and I care for accountable. So everybody that said that to me, I said, when are you going to implement it? And then I say, okay, I'm going to check in with you in a month.
Nice.
And I put them down on my schedule. So I got a call on July 1st with like a few different people.
Hell yeah.
About like, hey man, how's it going? I'm checking
Are you doing it?
making sure you're walking the walk. So
one thing that the 100, like you doing the 100 miles did for me, when I posted that video to like hype you up, so many people responded to me and it was like, dude, I just left the gym and now I want to go back. Like, you just hyped me up. Like, it hyped so many different people up. And then the next day I did the Krog Talks episode 1. Like, that just came to me. Like, you doing the 100 miles was like, I really like speaking and like sharing insight on just what we're doing now. Like, I love doing this, and like, I think it can help a lot of people. So I was like, I'm just going to start Krog Talks, and whatever happens, happens. But I feel like I need to get in front of the camera and just talk more to people. Mm-hmm. And that's what you doing the 100 miles did for me. After I created those videos for you, I was like, I need to start doing more of this.
Yeah, dude, Krog Talks is brilliant. And using Instagram TV, I mean, that's like a brilliant strategy to get your message out there and impact the thousands of people that already look up to you, you know, and follow you.
And I thought about doing podcasts as like a thing, but I feel like people feel my energy more when they see me on camera. So I think the Instagram TV works perfect.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like YouTube or something.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I agree, man. You do have like an electric energy about you when it comes to video, like 100%. But just voice too, like you are a great speaker. So I can definitely see why everybody was like, "Yo, man, I got so hyped when you brought that up." And
they were like, "Man, I wish I was in this guy's shoes."
Yeah, dude, it helped a lot for sure when I was out there. Everything that I got from people, and then like,
I saw your stories, man. That was so cool. It was like you had your own little community of people cheering you on at home. That was sweet.
I had people that don't even know me reach out, and I don't even know them. Cool. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. I've never had something like that before. And it was just so awesome.
That's always been my thing too. Like, that's the type of, I feel like so many people's priorities are just out of whack, and they like do the Instagram to post their accomplishments to people who aren't even paying attention. So their engagement is almost fake. Like, they're getting thousands of likes, but it's just because they probably think you're really good looking and they want to do something about it. And like, I just think for me, like, that's why I post my posts, because I'm like, people, even if it's one person, then I feel like my post has been valuable. Like if you change one person, then you've won. And like when people reach out to me and like that type of thing, when they don't know you and it's like they share how much you've helped them, it's like that's why I do Instagram, not just to get this fake following and fake engagement. Like, I don't know. It makes me sad because you got so many people who have a great following and who can make a change, but they're just keep posting like them doing dumb shit, and that's why they get that following.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's just that that irritates me a little bit sometimes. So I just try not to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, like it is good that you're using your platform for things.
You too.
Or maybe we'll find out if it's good. But
exactly, yeah.
Krog is just building his following to elicit mass destruction later in life. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, man. Well,
this has been awesome.
I know. I can't believe it's. What have we talked for? Like an hour and 45 minutes ish.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I posted on Instagram I said podcast time, and a lot of people are excited. So
cool. Yeah, I'll get this audio over to you.
Yeah.
ASAP. Like
I always say, like a link, and then people can click on it and stuff.
Yeah, I'll just put it up in my put it up on my website, or like I can send you the audio as well if you want to put it up somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't edit my podcasts, and like
awesome.
This one's been pretty good. I feel like we hit on so many topics. When I do an intro,
how are you going to title this?
I have no idea. Like
everything.
life performance with life coaches or something like that.
Yeah.
That would
be.
So like
we should next time we should like I don't know, come up with like an actual topic that we can specifically talk about or something like that.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make this just like a monthly thing or weekly thing and just talk on one topic for like 15 minutes.
Pazek and Krog Talks.
Yeah, we'll come up with a better name.
Yeah, I agree.
It should just be Krog Talks, man. I'm like, that sounds so cool to me. Krog Talks. When you like put that up there, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like genius. I mean, it sounds like it's just meant to be. Kind of like how when I first came up with Pazek Pep Talk, that was like
that's dope. That's
dope. That was my original business.
Yeah.
And like I even like got it LLC and everything. Like
no way.
And so then it kind of changed into Pazek Performance Group because I have a bigger vision. I felt like Pazek Pep Talk really pigeonholes me, but Pazek Performance Group I feel like has the ability to grow now. But yeah, I was driving home.
Because it's a community.
I was driving home from school on a Thursday, and I'm like, man, like I'd been out of the coaching world for months, and I'm like, I feel like there's something missing in my life. And over the radio, I heard like pep talk. The word pep talk just like popped out over the radio, and I was like, Pazek Pep Talk, man. That sounds good. So like that Saturday morning, I believe it was, I woke up in the morning and I put on Facebook, I'm like, Pazek Pep Talk's open for business. Give me a call.
That's awesome.
And then literally within like 3 minutes, someone called and I was like, holy shit, here we go. This is the beginning. And now, I'm
that's amazing.
3 years later, I'm really enjoing what I do and it's fun. But that's how it starts.
That's awesome, brother.
Have a thought like that, and you
got to actually do it.
I know. Yeah, it'll be good. So we'll just wrap this up real quick.
Yep.
Where can people find you or get in touch with you?
Matt Krog, Instagram.
MATTKROG.
Yes, Matt Krog.
Matt Krog on Instagram.
Yeah, and then within my bio, the yoga studio page is in my bio. It says follow Sculpt Savage, so that's all my like yoga workouts and stuff.
Sculpt Savage. That's SCULPT SAVAGE.
Yes, sir.
Sculpt Savage and Matt Krog on Instagram. Graham,
Graham.
stay tuned for the next Krog Talk. What do you got?
Sunday,
Episode 2 coming out.
Sunday. Power of questions.
The power
We
of
kind of covered it today.
questions.
I go more in depth, but just about asking better questions.
I'm guessing the topic is going to be better questions lead to greater answers. Greater answers lead to greater success.
Exactly.
Something along those lines.
Exactly.
Dude, I'm excited, man. I'm tuning in for sure.
Sweet.
All right, man. Well, if you want to get in touch with me, my email is tyler@pazikperformancegroup.com. You
Got
can
that down.
hit the website up, pazikperformancegroup.com, or go on Instagram, Pazik Performance Group, and hit me up there. Or just pick up the phone, give me a call, 847-922-1371. I'm still waiting for you to call, man, so call. All right,
Love
crap.
that. All right, brother. Let's make a habit out of this.
Yeah, I'll get this. I'm just gonna do it right now. I'm gonna just make the audio and I'll get it up there and we can just throw it on today
Start blasting.
or tomorrow morning, whatever you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, see you, brother.
See you, bro.